done a recap, but again, hope everybody had a wonderful Memorial Day. Spent some time with the family, but also hope you just spent a minute, remembering what Memorial Day is really for. And so, if you had friends and family members that have paid the ultimate sacrifice for this country, then you know what I mean. So, just always say a prayer for them on Memorial Day, and every day actually. But let's talk about DR. Today was a it was actually it wasn't an easy day. It was just a follow the rules day, like most of them are. Um, a lot of wicks today, and so you had to be really kind of on your game to make sure you're not like stopping yourself out of a lot of trades. But I think I had one, two, three, four, maybe four trades today. I have to look at my list again. Um, the first one was a sim trade, I will say that, and then the other ones I was like, well, shoot, I might as well put on real money if the market's going to do this for me. And so, as usual, let's talk about what DR gave us today. All right, so first thing, of course, is our range. And range, we had about a 24-point range today, which is a really good, a good width for us to have some movement in here. Um, and the other thing we talked about before, and I always talk about it, is this midnight open, and this came into play today pretty heavily. And so, let's kind of talk about what that is, and then how we traded the DR based off of that, right? Uh, so again, a lot of wicks starting out after DR the range setup. So we went up here. Now notice something. We tested this blue line is midnight, right? So we tested this midnight open. It's not a DR strategy, but this is just something I want you to kind of pay attention to. Um, in addition to the 10 o'clock open, this I want you to look at this midnight open sometimes to see what it does. But it's acted as a very strong resistance, kind of all day. The first few times it did it, it tested, rejected, tested, rejected, tested, rejected. So you could actually have taken a trade off of midnight here. And if you notice what happened, anywhere in here, with your stop loss a little bit above, but your take profit you'd have made that's what an easy probably more than 10 points off of this trade. All right, so as you look at things like that, there's opportunities outside of DR for you to kind of get in a little bit earlier if you're comfortable with that. If you're not, then don't. Right. Again, my risk tolerance is a little bit higher, so I'm okay taking these types of trades. Although I did not take this one today. All right. The other thing to look at, like we always talk about, besides midnight open, is our 10 o'clock reversal. And we can see kind of what happened here. 10 o'clock, price came down, and then it just reversed back up. We had a really nice movement up here. That was probably another 10 points at least if you were looking at that. So again, I'm not trading that. I'm just looking at it and just pointing it out for reference, something for you to look at. Okay. So again, we talked about this midnight open trade, which would have been easy. But again, notice how many times it's actually acting as a resistance here, right? So we finally come down. That's part of that midnight trade, and we confirm low. All right, so DR low confirmed. Price goes back up. My initial order, once price went above this the DR low line, I put an order here. Price just kept going up, went up above the IDR low, and so I moved my order up here. Okay, and then look where price went up to. Went up to midnight open again and rejected. Okay, so I did not put my order here. I put my order right here on the IDR because that's my strategy, right? So I put my order on the IDR low line, which is about a 2.5 point difference from where the midnight was. So I get picked up, price, kind of mess around for a little while, and then I drop down, down to on this candle, got your 5 points. Like I said, this was all 5 point day for me. I didn't even mess around. I just forgot my 5 points and got out. So this was a sim trade, the first one I took. And again, we had about a 6 point gap between IDR and DR on the low side. And so if you picked up a trade here and it went down to the DR low, that's an automatic 5 points. Okay, so that was actually a really nice range gap today. Okay, so we took the sim trade off, and I said, you know what? I might as well put some real money on the market. All right. So the reason why I was going with sim because I hadn't really traded since probably last Thursday. I hadn't really looked at the market as much. I had a couple things pop up and some things that really just put things in perspective for you. So I wasn't really looking at the market. So I wanted to kind of ease myself back into it, and that's okay to do that. Um, money is money, whether you're doing prop firm or your own money. you don't want to just waste money, until you kind of get your groove back a little bit. So even ICT talks about that, where like he goes away for a while, he takes a minute to actually get back in the swing of things. And so I use that as kind of my prep trade, make sure my mind was right, and I actually had my strategy was still working where I wanted to work, and the other thing was, what was my risk management looking like, right? So again, I did 5 points because I'm like, you know what, that's a safe trade. I can do that multiple times a day, probably, right? No big deal. Okay, so I took the sim off, put real money on, and then you notice that price goes up, almost gets back to IDR, comes down. So again, now at this point, I actually put an order on here. Okay, remember, I don't like when they go up, right? If I'm looking at the DR low, I don't want these candles that are going up. I want candles that are coming down so it can pick me up. Okay, so I get in here, price goes back up. Again, I have a 5-point stop loss, so I'm not anywhere closer. I'm probably like 2 points here. And this way you just got to trust your model, right? So equal highs come here, and then price drops back down again. 5 points, again, real money on that one. Okay, could have squeezed out a little bit more, but again, I'm not really interested in that. Just took my 5 and let it go. All right, so then price, again, as you see, comes back up again. Okay, now this one was a little bit more frustrating. So same thing here. Price comes in, order right here, back here on DR low. Price goes up, come back down, picks me up. Okay, it's a pretty simple one. Then it goes back up again, and now I'm negative, right? It comes back down again. It goes back up, and I'm negative. Now I'm back positive, right? So I was like, well, I'm just gonna let it play out because that's all I can do at this point. Goes back up again, goes back into above the DR low line, then it comes back down again, and then there's your 5 points. This one could have been an easy 10-point trade because you can see price comes all the way down here. So DR low was at 42.14, let's say. You can see price comes down here. That's 42.06. Next candle goes up, comes back down all the way down to 42.02. So that would have been an easy 10-pointer. But again, 5 points. I'm happy with that. Not upset at all. Got a little bit of a consolidation here, and then it shoots down some more. So I actually went down to 4,200, and then 4,200 acted as that's a psychological resistance or support level, and so price kind of turns back around. Now, I know 4,200 is a level that price is going to react to because it's a whole number, and so the only reaction is for it to go back up. So I could have taken a trade here, like one of my gut 5 trades, as I call them. But I chose not to do that because, again, we had confirmed low. So I only want to play the low side. I'm not worried about the highs going to the bullish side. I'm only worried about the bearish side of today. Okay, so all this happens, right? And I'm not worried about any of that. Notice price goes up again, and look what we do again. We come up and we test that midnight open one more time, and then we reject off of it. It rejected really fast, but my order, once it went up above on this green candle, I put my order in right here on this IDR low. All right. So again, now I got a 5-point gap between IDR and DR, right? So price gets picked up, comes right down, gives my 5 points in a couple minutes. I'm done there. All right. Then price comes back up again, goes back above the IDR low. I put another order on here, right, at IDR low, drop down another 5 points. Okay. So in that what's that, 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, that's an easy 10 points here, just again following the rules of how DR is supposed to work. Okay, at that point I say, well, I'm done with futures for the day. Was going to start looking at SPX, see what else was happening there. Didn't see much on the option side, so kind of just kind of let the day play itself out. There was one more, actually, there's probably one more opportunity here if you were like really just following the rules and just sticking to it all day. But again, I was very happy with what I'd gotten for today. So no need to poke the bear, so to speak. So I just let that one go. All right. So that was DR for today. And again, like I said, it was a lot of wicks today, so had to be a little careful. Like there's some trades I could have taken, but again, that wick just wasn't feeling right for me. So I waited for some candle bodies to actually be a little more prevalent before I started jumping into trades. And one of the things we noticed today was there was not a lot of fair value gaps, toward the middle of the day because all these wicks, right? So the wicks were there, but it kept, closing out the fair value gaps. So we couldn't even use that as kind of triggers for anything. There was one here that we could have used right in this window right here. But again, I really wasn't doing ICT today as much. I was just trying to stick to DR. But one thing I always try to do is I always try to look at what else is out there while I'm trading a certain strategy. Okay, so like for instance, you go down to the 1 minute for the silver bullet between 2 and 3 o'clock, and there was one at 2:20. You can't see it on this is the 5 minute, so you can't see it. But if you went to the 1 minute, and like I said, right around 2:20, there was price was going up. There was a retrace into a fair value gap, which you could have taken and had some pretty good profit off of that, right? So at least 10 points would have been coming off of that one. So again, I love the DR. Again, that's my primary strategy, but I also want to make sure I'm looking at other things that could be other strategies on days when DR is not working or DR doesn't confirm. We've had days like that before. So if you really are, intent on trading that day, then you just have to, find a different strategy that works for you. All right. So hopefully this was helpful. Again, missed you guys. Drop the comments in the comment boxes, and we'll get back with those. All right. And we'll do it again tomorrow. Take care.